In today's video, I'm going to talk about protein powders, healthy protein powder alternatives, and how to make your own protein powders. Coming up. Hi everyone, this is Ernesto from Attaboy Cowboy, and on this channel, we give you health and wealth tips to help you be successful. Now today I want to talk about protein powders. As you can tell, I take a lot of different protein powders. And I get this question a lot. People are asking me, what is the best type of protein powder to take? And obviously, you go to the store, there's dozens of different types. So first thing you want to keep in mind, when it comes to protein powders, don't get stuck on one type. Make sure you're alternating. Like anything that's good for you, you don't want to eat the same thing all the time. Like the patient that comes in and says, hey doc, I eat really good. I eat kale every day. I say, no, don't eat kale every day. Eat kale, eat arugula, eat iceberg lettuce, eat spinach, mix it up. You want a variety. So these are actually protein powders that I have in my home that I've taken and that I take. I buy one protein powder. It's organic vegetables. This one's made out of whey protein. This one's made out of greens and plant proteins, pea protein mainly. This one's made out of whey. And then I have, this one's another type of whey protein. This one's made out of a collagen protein, animal proteins. And I take a lot of these different proteins and I started doing some research on them because I wanted to understand some of the pros and cons of them. And I've actually evolved quite a bit. That's why I still have all of these. A lot of these proteins, they're full of cadmium, lead, mercury, and arsenic. Now, remember, when they make these protein powders, a lot of them are made out of whey or casein. And those are milk proteins, which come from cow's milk. And when you give the cow antibiotics, hormones, stuff like that, it binds to the larger molecules, which are usually the fat and the protein cells, right? So when you drink cow's milk, if you're not drinking organic milk, you're better off drinking non-fat milk. Because as soon as you start drinking 2% or whole milk or anything like that, that's going to have higher concentrations of antibiotics and hormones because those bind to the fat cells. So it's kind of the same thing with these protein powders. When you get this protein powder, obviously they're going to use the cheapest product they can find. So it's going to be really rich in hormones, antibiotics, cadmium, arsenic, all those things I mentioned. On top of it, pesticides. Because remember, that cow is eating corn. A lot of them are raised on corn. So they're eating this corn that's full of pesticides and it concentrates inside of the animal's body. It sticks to the fat. That's why pork is actually one of the more toxic animals to eat, because the hormones and the antibiotics and the pesticides that they eat actually stick to the body fat, and they have a high BMI. They have a lot of fat in their body, so they tend to carry higher concentrations of toxins compared to other animals. But again, back to protein powders, you have to worry about all those chemicals in here. On top of it, you have to worry about BPA and phthalates, which are excreted by the plastic, because all these come in plastic containers, okay? And then another thing you have to think about is these are made from whole foods. So let me give you an example. Let's say you want to take this protein powder, and if for many of you that have taken it, it's this really fine powder. It's really fluffy and nice, actually. And that's awesome, but that means it's been through a lot of processing, because none of these proteins are made by some guy or some woman in a kitchen somewhere grinding away making your protein powder. These are all made by machines. So whenever you get machines involved, there's heat, and heat causes nutrients to denature. That includes proteins. So it doesn't matter how awesome the labeling is on this, and it talks about it's organic and it's grain-fed or whatever, it's still made by a machine. So it's going to still be exposed to heat and plastic and a bunch of other stuff. And When you take this protein, a lot of times they add artificial sweeteners or sugar. You don't want that stuff in your body either. And if you're taking over 30 grams at a time, your body's just gonna kick it all out because there's no fiber in here. If you're eating like 50 or 75 grams of protein, but you took it with a little bit of carbohydrates, like some vegetables or something, or some oatmeal, that would slow down the breakdown of those proteins, and you'd actually be able to absorb it over a few hours of time. But because this is just straight protein, it goes right into your bloodstream, which is good, but then it's bad because you can't absorb very much of it. Your body can only absorb between 20 and 30 grams of protein at a time. Then you gotta wait an hour to 2 hours before you can absorb another 20 or 30. So if you had like an omelet with a bunch of, with some like rye bread or some oatmeal, you would be able to absorb that over a few hours. It would be a lot more effective. So what are some of the alternatives you can use? Well, again, I'm not real high on these. I'm actually trying to get rid of them little by little, and I'm starting to make my own protein powders. Now the goal is, again, to get to 30 grams. And I started thinking, you don't eat that many meals in a day. You want to make sure that you don't miss an opportunity to get some really nutritious food in your body. Because remember, a lot of the food that we eat is denatured. It's exposed to heat, and if you're eating raw foods, even still, it's probably coming from soils that have been overused, so they're deficient in protein, like minerals and vitamins and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna post below my recipe for protein powders. I also published it in my book I just made recently, How to Heal Broken Bones Faster. But just let me give you a quick synopsis of some of the stuff I use. I use sesame seeds, I use chia seeds, I use hemp hearts, which are really high in protein. They have 10 grams of protein in 3 tablespoons. And then I use like almonds, walnuts, quinoa, buckwheat. I use peas. I throw it all into my Vitamix and I grind it up. So now I'm not just getting an extract, I'm getting the whole food. So I'm getting a lot of the other benefits. And in this case, some of the stuff I mentioned, they have a lot of oils in them. The almond oil has a lot of vitamin E. The hemp hearts have a lot of omega fatty acids. So I'm gonna get a lot of these benefits. Another thing I use that people don't think about often is oatmeal. Oatmeal is a really good protein source. 1 cup of oatmeal has 10 grams of protein. That's a lot. I don't eat a cup. I eat about 4 or 5 at a time. So I'm actually eating like 40, 50 grams of protein with a bowl of oatmeal. So oatmeal is amazing. And it gives your shakes a really good flavor. So if you're adding in a lot of these seeds and you're adding maybe a little fruit to it, some oranges or bananas or something, and you add some of this with some water, this makes it creamy, almost like if you added milk. If you don't want to drink milk, you can make your own oat milk basically, but with protein in it. Other things I add eggs. Like I'll add pasture raised organic eggs. These are great. Now, eggs are a really good protein source, but a lot of times patients will tell me, well, doc, I'm worried about the cholesterol. I have really high cholesterol, etc. That's an old theory that's been disproven a long time ago. Eggs do not raise your cholesterol. You have to make sure you're eating a balanced diet and you're not eating a lot of sugar or wheat. Those raise your cholesterol levels much higher. So the thing with eggs is, if you're gonna spend the money to buy some good eggs, like these pasture raised eggs, you wanna make sure you're eating them properly. Like with any protein, chicken, meat, chicken, beef, pork, fish, whatever, you don't wanna fry them. That destroys the protein, it denatures it. You wanna boil them, make soups out of them, or bake them. In this case with eggs, I poach them. It's really easy. I couldn't believe how easy it was. I get my frying pan, never fry eggs. That destroys all the protein. It actually makes the protein toxic for you. So then it becomes bad for your health. So put some water in there. I put maybe a couple inches of water in the frying pan. I add like a couple tablespoons of vinegar. I heat it up. I crack the egg. I drop it right into the water and it cooks it. And the vinegar helps it stick together. And I'll throw 4 or 5 eggs in there. I'll get 24 to 30 grams because each egg is 6 grams of protein. And that preserves all the protein in there. And when I take it out, the yolk is really bright orange. Has a lot of omega fatty acids in it, a lot of minerals. It's really good for you. So all of that is preserved by poaching it, by cooking it in warm water. And actually, when I first started, I thought, wow, it's going to take a long time. I don't have a long time. It takes just as long to poach eggs as it takes to fry eggs. It takes about the same. It's no difference. It's really fast because you're only putting in a small amount of water and it boils up really quick in the pan. So it's very effective. For your protein shakes, you can even just break these and drop them in there raw. And that's, again, 6 grams of protein each. For flavoring, if I don't want to have the nut flavors, I can make my own vanilla. And this is real vanilla, so it has a lot of anti-aging benefits, and there's a lot of benefits to vanilla. Or I can make my own chocolate. I use organic, real chocolate, cocoa powder, and it tastes really good. And this has, again, really strong antioxidant, a lot of other health benefits. Chocolate actually kills bacteria in your mouth, also helps prevent cavities. Or if I'm tired, I want a little bit of boost, I'll make some green tea. I'll throw the tea bag away, I'll drop the green tea in there, or I just get some instant coffee. And for those of you that like coffee, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but you can eat this stuff. So you get a tablespoon of this, drop it into your shake, and you have coffee flavored or mocha flavor with some chocolate in there, protein shakes. So there's a lot of alternatives, and by doing this, instead of just using this mechanized powder that's made in a factory somewhere by a machine, now you're eating whole foods that are going to be a lot more filling. It's going to help you lose weight, and you're going to get a lot more benefits out of this because it's going to have a lot of other nutrients you can benefit from. So I highly recommend that you try making natural protein powder. It's not a big deal. It's really fast. I just a couple scoops here and there, boom, Vitamix, throw some water, I'm out. I can make it in a few minutes. It's really fast. And again, I can throw dried fruit. I can put bananas, make it banana flavored. I can put berries in there. Very tasty. And this one, actually this one over here is empty. And I've recycled the container and I make my own protein and I keep a little bit in there. And I use it for my shakes in the morning. I add a couple raw eggs, 3 eggs or something, increase the protein content. And then there's all that fiber. So I can actually start kicking up the protein. Instead of 30 grams, I can go to 50, 60, 70 grams. And I don't have to worry about just kicking it all out of my system. I'll actually be able to absorb it because of all the fiber that's in the seeds I'm eating. So it's gonna be absorbed over the course of the morning. So it's a lot more effective. If you're trying to lose weight, you wanna eat between 0.5 and 0.8 grams of protein per pound. So if I'm 200 pounds, you wanna eat about 100 grams to 160 grams of protein a day. That's quite a bit. So this makes it a lot easier to do, and it's a lot more nutritious for you. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please comment below. Thank you.